Palestinian resistance, they had a couple of statements talking about the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is only expanding the genocide against the Palestinian people, talking about the fact that Netanyahu withdrew from the previous round of negotiations. In the final moment, there was only one step, and they had a more thorough response in relation to this. Said we were one step away from reaching prisoner exchange agreement, and Netanyahu withdrew from the last round of the negotiations. A deception that conceals his plans for forced displacement and the destruction of the foundations of life. Netanyahu's statements are a blatant attempt to absolve his entity and army of genocide. And that his talk about liberating Gaza is a deception that conceals his plans for forced displacement, the destruction of basic necessities of life, and the installation of a subservient authority. Hamas also accused Netanyahu of exploiting the prisoner issue to justify the aggression, despite his killing of dozens of prisoners and his reveal of prisoner exchange agreements. Hamas emphasized that the only way to preserve the lives of the detainees is to halt the aggression and reach an agreement, not to continue the bombing and siege. They pointed out that the occupation deliberately closes the crossings and drops aid in dangerous areas or at sea, leading to deaths of dozens. The GHF killed 1,800 Palestinians, and that this is a policy of starvation engineering. And they, of course, confirm that they prevent international journalists to this moment from going in, and that they killed over 250 journalists, and most recently, the Al Jazeera journalist Anas al-Sharif and his colleague Muhammad al-Qariqi. So, from a Hamas perspective, they're clarifying here the position of the organization in relation to the deception of Benjamin Netanyahu and his statement. On the ground, though, there have been very strong developments, especially when it comes to Al-Qassam brigades, the armed wing of Hamas inside of Gaza. Al-Qassam brigades released a video today when they are in a certain part of Gaza. Both Al-Qassam brigades and a unit called the Arrow unit, they published a video of them targeting aid thieves in Gaza. And in that video, they were burning a vehicle that belonged to one of the thieves of aid, as we can see here. And they're clarifying in this video that it's them. So previously, there were like these organizations or other armed groups trying to protect the aid. This is the first time that the armed wing of Hamas, Al-Qassam brigades, are out in the street saying that the era of chaos has come to an end now, and they will carry out field executions against anyone who steals aid from the population in Gaza. The people who steal aid in Gaza are gangs linked with Israel, like the Abu Shabab gang that has ties with the Palestinian Authority of the West Bank too. They steal aid that comes in with coordination with Israel, with coordination totally coming from the IDF, who protect them and pave the way for them to steal all of this aid. But this is sending a strong message from the Palestinian resistance that they're no longer tolerating anyone stealing aid, and it's sending a strong message to anyone who even thinks of dealing with the IDF inside of Gaza. Let's have a look at the remaining part of this video.
المساعدات وضد التجار الفجار من وحدة سهم داخل منطقة الصاروخ. نسأل الله العلي القدير أن يعم على هذه المنطقة. ارجع في قنبلة. الآن داخل منطقة الصاروخ ضد الفجار وضد لصوص المساعدات يحرق الآن داخل المنطقة، يحرق جب للصوص المساعدات داخل منطقة الصاروخ. الآن ابعد عن الجب يا محمد، هيتفجر التانك، ارجع عن الجب. هذا مصير كل واحد خاين. لف علي، لف علي. احنا كتاب القرآن ولا بدنا نقول.
So in it, of course, they're saying that this is the destiny of every traitor inside of Gaza. The people are chanting for Al-Qassam brigades and supporting them, targeting the thieves because they steal the aid and they go and resell it at extortionate prices, ridiculous prices. Over 100 times the normal value, or even 1,000 times the normal value sometimes, capitalizing on the people suffering. And they're working in coordination with Israel completely inside of the Gaza Strip.
الآن يحدث داخل، هذا ما يحدث الآن داخل منطقة الصاروخ، إطلاق نار ضد الفجار. الآن في منطقة الصاروخ إطلاق نار. ارجع 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 ارجع.
So this is an escalation coming from the Palestinian resistance, because in previous occasions they did not take these measures in that manner. There were organizations that were working independently or potentially coordinating with the resistance, because everything that is even linked to the civilian authority in Gaza, Israel always targets them, whether it's civilian policing, civilian rescue services, ambulances, everything, rescue services. They still to this day refuse to allow rescue services from getting bodies. So some people were waiting for a ceasefire to just get the bodies of people who have been under the rubble for over a year. But some people were thinking that, you know, the more time goes by, the more people lose faith and hope in the Palestinian resistance. But as we can see, these people were cheered and supported by the average citizens who are suffering because of these thieves inside of Gaza, the traitors who are operating with Israel, stealing the aid only to make a profit out of this misery and catastrophe, with the full knowledge of Israel, by the way, because this is a carefully engineered project. And Benjamin Netanyahu's ridiculous claim of having aid, but that the United Nations wasn't able to come and get it, or doesn't want to come and get it. Why don't you allow the people to get it? Why are there hundreds of trucks waiting on the Egyptian side? Why are you allowing your squatters inside of the occupied territories to destroy the aid? How many videos have we seen of Israeli people jumping on aid trucks and destroying aid, destroying flour, powdered milk, the basic stuff, you know, basic necessity, the basic of the basic. So this will have an effect. It will have an impact on all of the organizations that are still operating in Israel. This is also a direct message to Israel directly. How? The fighters of the resistance coming out in broad daylight during a period where there is no ceasefire, and before Israel tries to expand its operation. And that message is, we are there and we are in the streets. And if you want to come in, come in. We will deal with you. And that's part of the reason why Benjamin Netanyahu was keeping this exit route because he knows exactly what's waiting for him. And that's why Israel has been conducting attacks purely against the civilians ever since this declaration of the expansion of their genocidal campaign in Gaza, because they have no targets of the resistance. And their primary target is the people, are the people, the infants, the children, the women, the men, the journalists, the voices of truth. So this whole campaign is a lost case for Israel from the beginning. However, and as we mentioned before, Benjamin Netanyahu started the campaign, it will include destruction, because this is what Israel is about, destruction. And that nonsense and that genocide and destruction must stop. But we're still in the beginning of this operation of Benjamin Netanyahu. How long will Benjamin Netanyahu continue with this campaign is a separate story. There are certain reports that have also come in the past few days that the mediators are trying to reignite the talks. Ron Dermer already clarified that we will go back if Hamas surrender to the agreements. And all of this is, by the way, part of the process in applying pressure on the Palestinian side to surrender, with a backup and cover from the United States, from EU countries, and from every country allied with Israel. Any country who's saying that Hamas should play no role and that the Palestinian resistance should be disarmed is giving Israel a backing, even if they're saying that Israel shouldn't continue with this operation, because they're indirectly justifying the campaign. Well, if you're saying that the Palestinian resistance needs to disarm, then you are amplifying Benjamin Netanyahu's claim that I am going to this campaign to make sure they disarm. We don't have genuine criticism here. But the fact of the matter is, Netanyahu, in his recent press conferences, he wasn't very convinced in what he was doing. He clearly kept the door open. He clearly isn't getting the backing of his top aides in the government. As a matter of fact, Smotrich today said, if the war stops, I'm out. Although this, the same man is a hypocrite too. He does a lot of U-turns. He just authorized supposedly military aid to go to Gaza with Israeli funding. Now, when we talk about the Israeli funding, you're talking about some businesses profiteering out of it from Israel, who are probably tied with the government. And he also said that no grain of aid will go into the Gaza Strip. This is several months back. And now they've done a U-turn. So if there is some sort of breakthrough in the next few days or weeks, something could change. However, judging by what's happening now, Netanyahu will continue his crimes because clearly he's not getting enough resistance from outside of Palestine. As a matter of fact, what we're seeing now is a population going through starvation and genocide, fighting for their lives, fighting for themselves. And the allies of Israel are demonizing the only group that is standing up and fighting Israel. And they're trying to replicate that in other parts too. So this campaign has the potential to last for several months. But if there is a certain breakthrough, or if Benjamin Netanyahu realizes that it's not going to be effective, the pressure is already mounting, and he knows, and he is confirming now for the first time, that the Israeli army is struggling with this attrition that's happening within the forces of the IDF reservists. Not enough are coming in. People are complaining, and headlines in Israel are talking about how much the IDF reservists are suffering from these repeated calls and that they no longer have capacity. He's going to have to stop. And at that time, he will package the deal in the way that he wants. But in the meantime, the people are still suffering. They are still facing a genocide, and Israel is still getting away with its hourly crimes inside of the Gaza Strip.